Hey guys, welcome to another video, Purple Political Talk here, and today we're going to be talking about the 2020 presidential election and looking at the Our Progress forecast. So recently we have been looking at a lot of these forecasts. A lot of them are showing different things, so we're going to take a look at what this forecast we have yet to analyze has to say about the election, who they think is going to win, and who they think has the best chances of winning in each individual state. So before we get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. So let's get started. So at this point, this forecast is on the heavier side for Biden at 85% to 15% chance in favor of Biden. So just for comparison, some of the other forecasts have Biden ahead, but maybe by 70%. In some, and we have some that have it in the high 70s, so almost low 80s. So this forecast is overperforming for Biden. But looking at the electoral college map, where they think the election is currently at, we can tell where do they think is going to be where they're going to be the closest states. So right now we can tell, for example, they have Iowa, very tight race. They think Donald Trump's ahead by 0.2. In Texas, they believe Trump is ahead by 0.9. In Florida, they think Biden's ahead plus 1.65. Georgia, Biden ahead plus 1. So, and a lot of these states that I would say Biden is not currently leading, looking at the data I analyze, they have for Biden. So it's very interesting. Some of the things I saw when I was analyzing it before the video was that honestly, this map has a little bit of a Democratic bias. For example, they say Biden's leading in Georgia by 1%, and he's leading in Florida. I agree more with the Florida call. 1.65 is somewhere where I would say Biden realistically could lead right now, just on the ground and support, excitement, all these different things. But in other places like Texas, we see very low numbers for Trump. In Iowa, even closer. Ohio, the closest state according to Our Progress. And they also classify a lot of these Republican states like Montana, Alaska, Alabama, Missouri, and South Carolina as a little bit more in the likely column, which shows these races are narrowing down, and they essentially put the Rust Belt by likely margins, which I'm not sure this has been updated recently, which I think last time it was updated was yesterday, so it should be up to date. The Rust Belt is no longer as strong as it was for Joe Biden maybe 2 weeks ago because of Kenosha, which really damaged Joe Biden's polling numbers in the Rust Belt and truly has given Donald Trump a little bit more of a boost. And I would say right now, believe it or not, the election is coming close to or is at a toss-up race. Donald Trump is being able to get this race and tighten it up. I mean, I think I'm going to have to give Donald Trump's props here because we must understand that Donald Trump is not good at campaigning early on in the election. He gets a lot of that mad media coverage. But when it comes to the end, he goes crazy campaigning. That's how he won in 2016 partially. I wouldn't be surprised if a comeback or something like that happens. However, right now, it's still in favor of Biden winning the election. So right now, looking at the data they do currently have about the popular vote and the electoral vote. So they think currently they project that Joe Biden's going to win about 51.8% of the popular vote, almost an 8% difference in favor of Joe Biden, more like a 7% difference. And you think Joe Biden will definitely reach over the 70 million vote mark. Donald Trump will only get 62 million. So that's a very big victory in the popular vote. But again, that could also be given to bigger states now going to the Democrats. And also a lot of the Democrats winning in a lot of these places. And again, the popular vote doesn't really matter. It's more symbolic. You could win the popular vote like Hillary Clinton, but still lose because of the Electoral College. However, what I find questionable about this map is they have the map with no toss-ups at 289 versus 125, with toss-ups at 351 for the Democrats to 187. I would have said the best-case scenario, or kind of nearing that, looked like this for the Democratic Party. Almost, this is like a step down from the best-case scenario. But I think we're no longer in Joe Biden as a campaigner. His campaign is no longer in the spot where they were in mid-July, where they were soaring in popularity because most of the country got behind Black Lives Matter. Then a lot of these questionable things started to come out, and I guess a lot of people have started to rethink their decisions. Also, COVID-19 has improved heavily in the United States. That's one big thing that we're currently seeing that is going to help the president as we move on towards the general election. So now I want to take a look at the graph and how the race has changed over time. This forecast in particular hasn't put Donald Trump over 30%. So early on he was like at 30%. Compared to the GSK forecast, another forecast who had Trump somewhat quite up before Black Lives Matter and before the pandemic. And what can we notice here? We honestly saw a little bit of an increase for Donald Trump right when the pandemic started to hit. Bernie Sanders dropped out right here. Everything started to tighten up a little bit. Then came the disaster that was Black Lives Matter for the Republicans, and they dipped and dipped and dipped. According to this forecast, they're still dipping, but I think the Republicans are going to start stabilizing and going up soon, just because one, we have debates coming up within kind of the next month. If I'm correct, we have a debate late September. I may be wrong, but I think if I'm correct, we have a debate late September. So that's going to be interesting to watch how that impacts the election. A lot of people say that Joe Biden is not the best debater, which, I mean, I have to agree. He's going to have a little of a hard time when it comes to at least responding to Trump. However, if Joe Biden is able to go through and do very good in the debates, he could maintain his numbers. But just with how the Democrats are becoming a little bit more unpopular nationwide, that's one of the things we're hurting them. And honestly, at this point, it's something that the Democrats need to look into because Donald Trump is providing a very good challenge. And when it comes to the popular vote, I mean, Donald Trump had never even barely had a chance of winning. The popular vote, according to them, has gone down. So before they expected it to be almost like a 5-point difference. Not much. But as we go on, it went down and the margins keep on going down. And it went from 5 points to 8 points, which that's a lot of votes considering how many votes are in the U.S. There's almost like 160 million, 150 million, 120 million, depending how many people vote. It's going to be, according to these projections, about 130, 140 million people voting. And honestly, at this point in time, getting 8% is a lot of votes. And I think, honestly, that difference could be shown in the Electoral College. Again, this forecast, I would say, has a little bit more Democratic leaning bias compared to the 538, which I would say is one of the best, along with the JSK, which is also a very good forecast. So now let's just take a look at the vote distribution on who's going to win in each state and by how much. So in a lot of these states, they have the Democrats leading in Georgia, but not in Ohio. Some of these things, I think that they don't make sense. And honestly, this forecast has a little bit more of that left-leaning bias, like I said. But also, just take a look. Most of the states where the most electoral votes are, those big circles are filled in by Democrats. And if states like Texas, Georgia, and other states keep on continuing going through more Democratic support gains for the Democratic Party, I think soon we might be at a point where it would be game over for the Republicans electorally, because at this point, the Republicans need to start holding their ground, and they're starting to transform, which is something I noticed. I think a lot of people have been saying it for a long time that it's very, very definite that the Republican Party, if they do not change, they're not going to win nationwide elections anymore. So they're starting to change. They're moving a lot more minorities. They've been increasing support among some African Americans. They've been increasing support with Latinos. And I think, honestly, why are we seeing this? Because Donald Trump is somewhat more focused on the minorities than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is just going through and kind of solidifying the white working class voters, in general, the working class voters in the Rust Belt. But Donald Trump has gone and started to focus a little bit on the minorities. So I think we might be able to see something a little bit similar, a similar effect, where Joe Biden might forget a little bit of the minorities and go through. I would just say that the Latino minorities is something the Democrats should currently be worried about. Joe Biden has a little picture on his website about Latino support. That's it. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have an agenda. And a lot of Latinos are noticing that. And I know a lot of Latinos have started to support Donald Trump because he actually has a plan. So that's something else to know. And we're probably going to start seeing the race narrow up. There's many reasons, though it could be some. When it comes to third-party vote, they expect that most third-party vote will come from West Virginia and from Utah. So that's going to be very interesting. And honestly, I think at this point, that's probably where we're going to see the most states for third-party vote. And if one of those liberal, I guess more of the independent type, run in a lot of these states and write in ballots and things like that, they could probably get a big chunk of votes and change the election. So last thing we have for this forecast is how each party is going to get the most, where are they going to get their biggest chunk of popular vote from. So, of course, for the Democrats is going to be California by a landslide, and then everything else kind of just encompasses a lot of the inner vote. However, the Republicans are doing very well according to popular vote in mid-sized states. So I think at this point in time, the Republicans are looking like they would probably lose the popular vote, definitely. I think the chances of Donald Trump winning the popular vote are very low. However, the Electoral College, I think it's very in play, and I don't think this forecast is completely accurate. At least looking at some data we've had from recent polling data and things like that. So overall, this is the Our Progress forecast. It was a very interesting forecast. I would say very different from those we've seen in the past. Has a little bit more left-leaning results, and honestly, I want to see what you guys think. So go down to the comments and comment down below what you guys saw of this video. And if you liked it, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be up to date with our latest content. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.